Hey, thanks for joining me. I was recently out at this event at a local mall where they had, I don't know how many long boxes of comics. Um, it was a ton, and they just had a billion books. I'm gonna have a little quick video detailing kind of that little adventure I went on the previous day up here shortly. But while I was there, I was just digging through the boxes looking for some books to pick up for the channel. And sometimes you run across something that, based on the title alone, you know you have to pick it up. You have to know what that is. For example, when I see a comic book called Apache Dick, I am taking that home with me. So I have Apache Dick. But also, digging through, I find a comic book called Space Punisher. I stopped in my tracks and I went, what? Space Punisher. Like, you've got to be kidding me. One, how have I never heard of this? I looked into it. It's 2012, I believe. So it's, a little old, but not very old. And the art is by Mark Tex. I never know if it's Texeria or Teixeira, whatever. Let's call him Tex. How do I miss a Space Punisher comic book with art by Tex? And it's fully painted Tex art. I'll take painted Tex art. I'll take black and white, inky sketch Tex art. I'll take any of it. But Space Punisher, like, it almost sounds too goofy to be real. It sounds like a joke that some dudes are just sitting in a room and just talking about it. And like, hey, I got this. I got two words for you, Space Punisher. And everyone laughs. Ha, 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 ha. Wouldn't it be great if Punisher was in space? And it kind of, it presents an interesting idea. Do you take this to be like deadly serious? Or is it kind of like a jokey kind of, I don't know, Guardians of the Galaxy type thing? Like, where do you go with this? I was fascinated by the idea. What I was worried is that the concept sounds interesting. It sounds funny. It sounds so ridiculous and over the top. I'm like, I gotta know. So grabbed it, took it with me. But I was worried that it was going to be another boring, bland, like no one's going to have the balls to do something really interesting with this. And, I just thought, some would try to take it so serious and earnestly. And no, this is just a silly romp. It's just kind of a weird balance of humor and action. And it worked. I could not believe how much I enjoyed this stupid thing. It's one of four. Like I said, I've never even heard of this, and I only found the one. But I was pleasantly surprised. Writer is Frank Terry. Thierry, Tieri. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. I've seen his name. I don't know. I feel like I've probably read some of his stuff, but not enough that I could say anything about him. I just know he's a writer. He's been out there. But like I said, I was pleasantly surprised. I couldn't believe this thing. So, yeah, it started out, it says, in space, no one can hear you die. I'm like, okay, that's awesome. And then it says here, one man's quest for vengeance across a galaxy different than our own. I'm like, okay, all right. Yeah, you had a perfect like elevator pitch. Like, hey, you got a comic book idea for me? Yes, sir, I do. Space Punisher. I'm like, ooh, greenlit. Let's go. Write a story. So it starts out. I actually had noticed over here, you got this painting here. It looks like they just took this panel from the book and then just kind of cut it out and blew it up and made it like the opening splash page. Pretty awesome. But we start out, we're in space, and then just artistically, this is Tex doing fully painted art. And anytime he does that, it's immediately kind of special. It's immediately kind of super awesome. And like I said, it has a weird balance of humor and seriousness. Text is great. I feel like this book and this storyline and this art, like this would fit into one of those heavy metal magazines. Like, this is like heavy metal shit. There's just less tits. So, but it's a Marvel comic. I bet if they were, willing to go all the way, they'd definitely throw that in there. But anyway, we start out the Orion Quadrant. Got planetary bodies and these big alien floaty fishy whatever things. And I know I'm pretty sure these are supposed to be these creatures that I've seen in, I think it's X-Men, written by Claremont with the Starjammers and things like that. I don't know what they're called, but I think it's supposed to be those things. I know some of you out there will be able to tell me. And they got text box that says, they say I'm crazy. You know what? They're probably right, but not about this, not about the 6-fingered hand. Been hunting them for the better part of 8 years, though you'd think I'd been hunting Santa Claus instead of an intergalactic mafia, the way most people act. So you start out with more of these intergalactic fishes, and then you get some kind of like space vehicle, and it's kind of got like a skull-ish pattern on it, like the Punisher. It's a silly spaceship design, but I'm instantly like, okay. Instantly, I'm kind of like, this is going to be a funny thing. But there's, presumably the Punisher. There he is ejecting out of the ship. Coming out of the ship, there he is rocketing through space. This is very kind of Guardians of the Galaxy. It's kind of Buzz Lightyear in a way. Text continues, says, doesn't matter. People can say what they want. I could give a damn. All that matters is that I managed to track one of them down, which makes them real, which makes me one step closer to finally making these bastards pay. So he lands on some kind of surface, and there's like a black goo. It kind of splurts up around, and then a tentacle wraps around his leg, and he's like, son of a. And then another interesting part that I was actually not expecting, I mean, we're still getting this great painted artwork, but it's the Brood, the alien creatures that are kind of like xenomorph type things from the X-Men comic, but they're also intermingled with the Venom type symbiotes. So they're the Brood and the symbiotes, so they're called symbrudants, like symbiotes. Brilliant. Take these two ideas and mash them together. It is something that's been done a little bit to death, where they keep taking the Venom symbiote and mashing it together with just any character. Like like I've seen Venom Pool. It gets to be a little much, but Marvel's trying anything that they can come up with to sell these days. But yeah, Brood symbiote creatures. They drop them down inside this. They pull them down under the ground. They're like, Frank Castle, you piece of human shit. Thank you for saving us the trouble of hunting you down. We will decorate the ship's bridge with your entrails. The Queen Mother will be most pleased. Love this shot. Frank's inner monologues. Yeah, Frank Castle. It is Frank Castle. I was like, I assume this is some kind of like what if story. It's certainly not Frank Castle as we know him in the future, at least not that it's said. But his inner thoughts say it's what happens when you mix space bug sleazoids and parasite scum. You get one gigantic merged pus bucket race instead. Real fun. So he's lying there, surrounded by the monsters. He says, hate to disappoint the Queen Mother and all, but I kind of like my entrails where they are. So instead, meet a couple of friends of mine. I call them Sound and Fury. Got 2 guns. So he uses the one gun that says that's sound, so it's illustrated to show like sonic waves, which we all know is what disrupts the symbiote things. Are always susceptible to sound vibrations. So he separates the symbiotes from the Brood, and then he uses his other laser gun to just blow them away. He's like, that'd be sound and that'd be fury. Awesome. Just blowing away monsters. I'm into it. He keeps blasting them in the face. Loving Tex's painted artwork. Looks fantastic. Says, Sleazoids still coming. Just too many of them. Time for some backup. So he says, Chip, get your shiny metal ass in here. So, of course, we all know Microchip, the little tech guy that's always helping the real Frank Castle. In this case, it's some kind of like C-3PO robotic thing that just kind of teleports there, says, yes, sir, and says, though I would tend to disagree regarding the shine factor on my posterior. Its arms turn into 2 giant rotating Gatling guns, and just proceed to start mowing down more of the creatures. The Chip robot says, which is, talking about his posterior, he says, which is not metal, I might add. You should know you created me. Frank says, I wish I could have created a friggin' sense of humor while I was at it. And then he gets kind of smacked in the back. And then a voice says, I find this attack of yours to be quite amusing. Flip over, and it's presumably the Queen. some big, the queen bee, of course. It says, does that mean that I qualify as having a sense of humor? So Frank Castle is grabbing the pointy tentacle that looks like he's about to stab him in the face. Frank says, yeah, well, we'll see how much you're laughing when I'm scraping space bug guts off my shoe. Chip, get the download. I've got this. So Frank, hell yes, Frank Castle has a fucking lightsaber. Laser sword appears in his hand and he chops away the brood creature, freeing himself. The creature screams and says, I'll feast on your bones for that. Meanwhile, Chip is over there as a computer downloading into some, I guess there's just a computer console over there some way, somewhere, somehow. It's kind of like not explained. I don't think I care in a book like this, but I like how the creature is just kind of like casually swiping its arm to the right, just blowing away these monsters. There's just guts and bits everywhere as they're all just kind of lined up. Chip says, downloading complete. And Frank says, and the blackout bomb? They're like, planted. So then Frank says, Maria, get us the hell out of here. And the alien queen says, did he say bomb? So they teleport out and a bomb teleports in. I love Frank Castle having a lightsaber. Like, I am super on board with that. Flip over, and then some kind of explosion, and as we pull away, it doesn't specifically say, it says blackout bomb, but it kind of visually looks to me like it creates like a black hole that's just sucking everything in. So I don't know. It doesn't say. I don't think it needs to say. It's not required. All we know is that it's a bomb. It blows up and kills the creature, sucks them in, and it's awesome. Problem solved. No text boxes everywhere covering up the story, telling us shit we don't know. Just let us see these awesome visuals. I'm instantly becoming a big fan of this writer because he just lets the visuals tell the story. So Frank is now on a ship somewhere, his little vehicle we saw at the beginning. He says, so long, Queenie. And he's like, ow, he's up there, a little chip, because he got stabbed in the back. And so the AI that's inside the spaceship says, don't blame him. You're lucky you got out of that hole. You're lucky you got, Jesus, I can't even speak. I can't even read. It says, you're lucky all you got is that hole in your back after that little stunt. Frank says, I squashed that royal roach bitch, didn't I, Marie? And the AI spaceship says, like I said, lucky. And watch that language, mister. And he's like, yes, ma'am. So he said, regardless, 1 capo down, 5 to go. And then the inner monologue says, of course, the remaining 5 6-fingered hand frontmen are easy. The remaining 5 are an easy part. It's the real power behind them that I want. The ones that secretly won the show. The ones that murdered my family. So, of course, we're getting into the Frank Castle backstory, motivation. So he's like, anything yet from that download, Chip? And the inner monologue continues. There's more than just whispers now. I got one today. I'm close. I can feel it. And so they basically like, hey, we're close. We're deciphering their transmission. There's a drug dealer known as the Barracuda. And Frank's like, I know who he is. And I know where to start looking. So now we start looking. Frank says, set a course for the Starjammer. And then it's just like a building on a planet. It looks like there's a frickin' parking lot and street lights and a bunch of vehicles out front. And it's a building just says the Starjammer. And so now we get this shot. And at a glance, I was like, oh, hell yeah, there's a dude in bed with a bunch of chicks. And that's just what I thought at a glance. But then I started looking at it. Whoever this guy is, he's just lying there in bed. And he says, well, that was interesting. So you got him. What do we got surrounding him? We got some kind of like furry chick with like, with like a tail, probably a butt plug with the tail sticking out of it and some kind of bug antennas. So kind of feminine. There's a mermaid. I don't know how you fuck a mermaid, but we'll find a way. This girl, she looks basically human feminine, except she looks like she's got a dozen tits and some kind of something on her face. This over here looks like some big gelatinous clitoris thing, which is that what that is? I don't know. There's a man lying in the corner. There's a fucking horse. There's a horse standing here. There's what looks like a regular human woman passed out on the ground. There's a chicken, and there's a centaur. A male centaur. The implication is that all these people were all fucking hilarious. Just ridiculous. But he gets interrupted. Somebody says, boss. And so the boss says, are you seriously in here right now? How many different and very painful ways do you think I'm going to have you murdered for this? And this alien creature says, but boss, Corsair, So, Corsair, you don't understand. The Punisher is here, and there he is. Another great text painting with the chip robot, Frank Castle there, the skulls on him. Frickin' Thanos is sitting there. There's this creature that I've seen, and I absolutely cannot recall what the hell this thing is called. I feel like it's a Jack Kirby-ish thing. Not sure. Some other girl, not sure who that is. Looks like Annihilus over here, and maybe Boba Fett. Maybe. But there they are. So it's some kind of bar or something, and Frank has showed up to get involved. So dig in this art. Frank is standing amongst all these people. And this is a scene that we've seen. You know, the hero goes to a seedy bar, Jedi business, go back to your drinks. Remember that stupid shit? Kind of the same thing. But this gives Tex the opportunity to come up with the weirdest alien creature things, multi-eyed bug things, some gelatinous blob over there, just all kinds of different things. And so Castle just says Barracuda, which is the name of a high-level drug dealer of some type. And all these aliens just start pulling out their guns and getting ready to start some shit. Frank, with just a cackling smile on his face, says, which one of you sons of bitches is going to tell me where I can find him? And you hear a voice say, Frank, there's Corsair. I'm kind of doubting this is the Corsair we know, like Cyclops' father, but that's his name. He comes in, he's like, good to see you again. What do you say we go back to my office where maybe you'd be more comfortable? And as he puts his hand on Frank's shoulder and Frank looks at it, Frank just grabs his hand and kind of like a joint lock thing, twists his arm back and says, Barracuda. You know, anytime a criminal lice bag passes gas in this quadrant, Corsair, you know where he is. And I want to know right now. And then he gets interrupted by a giant hand grabbing Frank's head. The voice from off panel says, big mistake touching the boss man, Castle. So Frank's getting cranked back. Frank's getting cranked. So there is Frank, and then some giant horned alien bouncer bodyguard something. Don't need to know what it is. All I know is it looks awesome. He looks kind of like a combination of a human and like a rhino of some type. Maybe he's supposed to be the rhino. I don't know. He says, you were doing a great job of getting yourself turned into a gut stain on the barroom floor all by yourself. Ain't the janitor, he says, I ain't the janitor around here, so I ain't had a problem with that at all. But now you start messing with the man who pays me. Well, I might add, to watch his back. Now you start messing with my money. And that's when I step in and squeeze your head until you crap out your eyeballs. What do you say to that, hard guy? And Frank just kind of, his head's getting squeezed. He says, I say fire. And then from above, giant laser blast down, vaporizes the rhino bodyguard guy. Just gone. All that's left is his lower legs and his feet. Frank says, just so you know, that blast came from my ship, Marie. She's orbiting above this crap hole. One word from me and she'll totally obliterate every single last filthy mutt in here. I like the worried look on these aliens' faces. So Frank, back to it. He says, so now, with that in mind, Barracuda. Which one of you sons of bitches is going to tell me where I can find him? Now we cut to another scene, some room with a bunch of dead or dying bodies of some kind of creatures. It says Barracuda's safe house, the planet Aquarion, 6 hours later. Somebody's coughing. This guy, he's like, oh man. And he's reaching for what looks like a breathing device. All these creatures have some kind of breathing device either on them or near them. He's reaching for it, and then Frank shows up and steps on the tube that is to the breathing device. Frank, there he is. Now, maybe this is the implication is that Frank showed up. This just occurred to me just right now because I'm dumb. He showed up and blew away all these people. That's why he's standing there with a smoking gun. We just missed the fight. He showed up and killed all of them but this one guy. He says, did I step on that? How clumsy of me. And so this alien fish thing, he's like, yo, dog, I don't know nothing. Like I done already told your ass. Don't let me go out like this. He keeps coughing. And Frank picks up his breathing device and tries it. He's like, wait, so this water breather, is that what you want? How's this thing work anyway? He breathes in it and then he spits it out. He's like, what the hell is that, scroll piss? So then he takes a knife as if to cut the breathing tube. He says, all right, enough games. You tell me what I want to know about the six-fingered hand right this second, or this thing gets ventilated. So this fish guy. He's like, you pus-filled psycho fuck, you win. The library, hollow disc, third shelf. Come on, dog, hurry. I think it's funny how this guy, this alien creature's talking like a low-level gangster thug from Earth. Like, come on, dog, hurry. So Frank gets on there, pulls out a disc, puts it in the computer, and there's like a alien creature and a girl creature in, shall we say, an amorous moment. And she's like, oh, baby, you've got such big fins. Frank looks back at him and says, fish porn? Are you screwing with me? The guy says, the disc next to it, damn it. So Frank gets the right disc in. The alien guy's like, look, I made this in case I had to blackmail them punks. This is them, the 6 capos of the 6-fingered hand. Says the Brood Ant Queen, which already got ghosted. So that's the one Frank took out. Then I thought these were kind of interesting. Dr. Octopus. So he's like a human upper body, but his lower half of his body is octopus tentacles. That's a great switch on the octopus idea. You've got the Green Goblin, just to look kind of like a humanoid creature, but wings, just like an actual goblin. You have Magneto, just kind of a human-looking guy. The Red Skull, and then Ultron, which is normally a robot, but this is just some kind of like alien-looking thing. I think that's interesting. I'm like, all right, I kind of want to see these characters. I want to see these creatures. A voice says, nobody move. And then through the wall, explosion, comes a guy, says, nobody will get hurt, and this guy says, yeah, right. And so Frank's inner thought says, Sabretooth, Deadpool, and the leader. Deadliest hitman, the 6FH, the 6-fingered hands got. And they sure ain't here for the fish porn. So Deadpool comes up and he says, what about shooting him? Does that count as hurting him? And Sabretooth gets right up close to him, hands around his throat, claws in his face, and says, not even close, to be continued. And to be, clear, like this Deadpool version, like his hands are morphing into guns, almost like he's liquid, maybe. Kind of hard to say. Sabretooth looks mostly the same. Kind of hard to say. And then leader, it's a guy with a brain, but he's like a brain floating in a jar above his head. And again, that's the end of the book. It's simple, it's silly, it's fun, it's irreverent, it's action-packed, it's beautifully illustrated. This is like a hidden gem. I'm always hoping for that on occasion I'll find these hidden gems, just these silly things that are out there that just had no idea existed. And you just run across it and go like, you know what? This was fun. This, to me, it feels like it knows exactly what it wants to be. It knows exactly what it's trying to be. It's just silly, and I've got to seek out the other 3. This was great. It may not be everyone's cup of tea, because again, it's not taking anything serious, but that's fine. Everything doesn't have to be. But there is a fine balance to strike between the over-the-top violence and the humor, and finding a way to balance it to make it work. I feel like they did it here. So I can't wait to try and track down the rest of it. It does say in the next issue, the Hulk, or the Punisher versus the Hulk. So there's some future version of the Hulk. It kind of looks like it's implying he's got 4 arms, which is wild, because there's an arm here, and then, the left arm, right arm, but there's also another arm. So does this version of the Hulk have multiple arms? Hell yeah. I got to find more. I found it incredibly interesting. Space Punisher. Sign me up. I want more. So has anybody else seen this? I know some of you have, but like I said at the beginning, this is new to me. And I was talking with my buddy Mitch. We did a live stream today, and excuse me. And I was kind of explaining it to him. He's like, yeah, I'd never heard of that too. It sounds awesome. I think it is awesome. So, I know at least I'm not the only idiot out here that's never heard of this thing. Anyway, that's all I got for this one. It was fun. I want more. That's all I've got. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.